Hi, I'm Dr. Robert Glover, the author of No More Mr. Nice Guy, a proven plan for getting what you want in love, sex, and life. Contrary to conventional wisdom, nice guys rarely finish last. In reality, they usually get stuck somewhere in the middle of the pack. I often say that nice guys are good at looking good, but not great at being great. So what's a nice guy? A nice guy is a man or a woman who inaccurately internalized an emotional belief in childhood that they're not okay just as they are. As a result, they have spent their lives trying to become what they think other people want them to be in order to be liked, loved, and get their needs met. They also hide things, usually their wants and needs, anything that they think might trigger a negative reaction in others. I'm a nice guy. For the first 30 years of my life, I assumed that was a good thing, and I couldn't figure out why everyone else didn't think the same. I gave, I listened, I fixed. I sought approval by trying to do things right. I sacrificed. I put others before myself. I sought external validation. I avoided conflict. And yes, I hid everything about me that I thought people might disapprove of. I didn't know it, but I was dishonest, inauthentic, needy, resentful, passive-aggressive, and manipulative. These patterns were especially pronounced in my friendships and relationships, but that wasn't the only place my nice guy beliefs and behaviors showed up. Through much of my adult life, I failed to live up to my full potential in work and career. Due to codependency, getting caught up in helping other people and/or trying to solve their problems, my approval seeking, my fear of success, my deceptive productivity, my desire for a smooth, problem-free life, my fear of rocking the boat, my tendency to play it safe. I was the classic underachiever. I did well enough, but I always knew in my heart I was put here for so much more and I was capable of so much more. Most of my life, dating back to childhood, I performed well enough to get a moderate amount of praise and to avoid too much criticism, but never really excelled, never really took my game to the next level. But since discovering the principles I'm going to teach you in this 8-lesson course, my life has taken a totally different trajectory. Now I frequently hear statements like, "Robert, you're so lucky. You live in a beautiful place. You have a great life. You get paid well for doing what you love, and you're making a difference in the world." My response to these comments is typically, no luck involved. But these folks are right. I have a great life. I do get paid well for doing what I love, and like most successful people, I've had my share of lucky breaks. But as movie maker Samuel Goldwyn is attributed as saying, the harder I work, the luckier I get. I've worked my ass off to get where I am. And the good news is, what one man can do, another man can do. So, in other words, if a lifelong, moderately performing guy like me can turn it around and live the life of his dreams, so can you. This course I want to introduce you to, Nice Guys Don't Finish Last, They Rot in Middle Management, will show you how to have the kind of success you've always dreamed of. Your success won't be just like mine, but I will show you how to get out of your own way. Use your God-given gifts. Challenge your self-limiting beliefs. Work smart. Hustle. Face your fears of success and live up to your full potential. Let me tell you how this course came to be. To do so, let's go back 20 years to 2002. In the fall of that year, I split with my second wife. I was living alone for the first time as an adult. I'd signed a contract for my book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, to be published in March of 2003. Barnes & Noble, my publisher, contracted with me to write an 8-lesson online course to help publicize the book. Nice Guys Don't Finish Last, They Rot in Middle Management was that course. I taught this course at B&N University 5 or 6 times until they decided to suspend their online university. During this time, Nice Guys Don't Finish Last was consistently their highest rated course by students. Now, fast forward to the summer months of 2021. I took a 3-month sabbatical to slow down a little, write, read, and enjoy friends and family. 2 things came out of that trial retirement. One was that I did really enjoy having less demands on my life and more time to read, relax, go camping, and enjoy the fruits of almost 50 years of my labor. A second thing I realized that I wasn't done yet. Out of that sabbatical came the decision to convert all of my online courses into on-demand videos. For years, I told other aspiring online coaches and teachers that if I was to do it again, I would create all of my online courses as video content and offer them on demand. I decided that to leave a greater legacy, that was exactly what I needed to do. Nice Guys Don't Finish Last is the 4th of 6 written courses that I'm converting into video. The process has been a lot more work and much more challenging than I realized it would be, but it's also been one of the most rewarding projects I've ever set out on. Not only has the response to these video courses been overwhelmingly positive, but I've also been challenged to learn new skills at a time when most men my age are retired or getting close to it. I've never felt more alive, more energized, and more optimistic, and I'm not done. I'll tell you more about that in a few minutes. So now in April 2022, right now, I'm converting Nice Guys Don't Finish Last, They Rot in Middle Management from written lessons to video 20 years after I originally wrote this course. This gives me an interesting perspective of my life as a business person over the last 20 years. Let me share with you a little bit about where I've come from in my work and career since I began breaking free from the nice guy syndrome and to where I am today. Now, I didn't set out to be a businessman. I've never taken a business or marketing course of any kind. I come from a family of marginally educated blue-collar workers. Despite this, I became an entrepreneur before I'd even heard of the word or before it became part of our common vernacular. Years later, I became a digital nomad long before a generation of millennials made it a household term. Without really knowing it, I've always been somewhat of a pioneer, just a little bit ahead of the curve when it comes to my work and career. Now, this hasn't always been a good thing. I got fired from my first real job in my early 20s for being just a little bit too forward-thinking. I learned that if you take a stand or if you stand out, you might get nailed to a few crosses. It happens to the best of them. That first firing left a scar on me that took several years to heal. But as the legendary baseball manager Billy Martin stated, you haven't lived until you've been fired. When I left my first career as a minister at around the age of 30, I went looking for a job as a counselor. Despite being highly educated and highly qualified, I couldn't find a job. So I got a part-time job installing Murphy beds for minimum wage. Now, this was the best business training I've ever had. And I decided that since I wasn't making any money doing nothing, I might as well start my own private counseling practice and not make any money doing that. Now, this was before the internet, email, and online marketing. Back then, you marketed yourself or your services by taking out a Yellow Pages ad. That was about it. As I began my first business, I quickly learned some universal laws for professional survival. No one taught me these, they just quickly became self-apparent. Over the years, I've discovered around 30 such laws for business success. We'll explore these laws throughout this course. Here are the first two laws I discovered, and they're just as true today as they were in 1988 when I launched my first business. Universal business law number one: you can be the very best at what you do, but if no one knows you exist, you'll starve. Universal business law number two: no matter what your business, you are primarily a marketer. You never get done marketing. This is true whether you are self-employed or working for the man. Another way to express these two laws is that you've got to hustle, and the hustle never ends, so you better learn to love it. For example, this video is a form of hustle. I want to educate you and give you some tools to help make your life better, but I also want to sell you something. I'm hustling. Going back to universal business law number one, I could create the best video class for business people ever, but if no one knows it exists, it won't change a single life, and I'll have to go back to installing Murphy beds. Whether you are an entrepreneur, work part-time at minimum wage, are a contract worker, in management, or occupy a C office, if you want to live up to your full potential and make a mark in the world, you gotta hustle. So, going back to my first year in private practice in 1988, I decided that to promote myself, I would be the most visible therapist in my city for a whole year. Now, I didn't know exactly what that would look like, but I dropped in on doctors. I took therapists out to lunch. I attended every professional meeting I could find, and I signed up to teach continuing education courses at local community colleges. I became visible in every way I could think of. Soon, my phone started ringing. A therapist I took to lunch the previous week couldn't fit a new client into their schedule, so they referred them to me. This began to happen frequently. Within 3 months, I was making more money with my counseling practice, seeing only a handful of clients a week, than I was in my gig installing fold-down beds. I quit that job and dedicated my full-time energy to being the most visible therapist in my city. My hustle paid off, and it set a tone that continues to this day. Honestly, my favorite part of my job is the hustle. I love the psychology of it, the challenge of it, the human interaction of it, the payoff of it. Now, I don't just hustle to pay bills. I hustle because I have great value to offer the world, and if I don't sell it, the world will suffer. That's true for you too. You're still watching this video right now because of these two factors. I'm hustling, and you see value in what I'm selling you. Okay, turning to my professional progression. In my mid-30s, I'd begun exploring my nice guy tendencies in therapy. And I noticed a lot of men coming to me for counseling had a lot of the same behaviors and beliefs that I did. So I started my first No More Mr. Nice Guy men's group and began writing little lessons to give the members of those nice guy groups. The men and their partners started telling me, "Robert, you should write a book. It could be a bestseller. You should go on Oprah." It took me 6+ years to complete that book, No More Mr. Nice Guy. It then took another 3 years to find a publisher. Editors kept telling me, "Robert, I like your book. It's well written. But our marketing department says men won't buy a self-help book." I kept hustling. I kept contacting local radio stations and newspapers. I did interviews. I followed up. Then in 1 week in the spring of 2002, both major Seattle newspapers ran full-page lifestyle articles about me and the nice guy syndrome. Things blew up. I woke up one morning with emails in my inbox from Fox News, CNN, The Today Show, and 2020. All of a sudden, a publisher, Barnes & Noble, decided my book was worth publishing. And just as a side note, for a book that multiple marketing departments in major publishing companies said wouldn't sell, in the last 3 weeks, it brought in $140,000 US in royalty checks. Now, that doesn't happen every 3 weeks, but large royalty checks have become the rule, not the exception. Hustle. The 3 or 4 years that followed the publication of No More Mr. Nice Guy in 2003 were actually a slog for me. Despite the publication of my book, my private practice did not grow as I thought it would have. In fact, it began to decline. I filed for bankruptcy due to debts from my marriage and divorce. I struggled with depression. I ended up moving my practice to a more affluent, more highly educated city. I started new men's groups. I taught classes. I did workshops. I hustled. But even so, for a couple of years, I wondered if I would be able to keep my business afloat. During this time, I decided to relaunch Nice Guys Don't Finish Last. They brought in middle management on my own. To my surprise, it brought in $4,000 the first time I offered it. I started building a mailing list. The internet and applications like Skype allowed me to start working with men around the world. And just before my second marriage had ended, I'd also discovered the beautiful coastal city of Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. I'd go down and visit periodically just to get out of the rainy Seattle weather and look for a momentary cure to my depression. And I decided I wanted to live in Puerto Vallarta for at least part of the year and started planning how I could move more and more of my business online. When the recession hit in 2007, I was terrified like everyone else. But I thought, hey, if we're going down, we're all going down together. I doubled down on offering online programs and marketing myself. My business actually boomed during the recession. In 2009, my father passed away from a stroke. 3 months later, my brother died. 6 months later, my older sister passed. I decided that if I was going to make a change and start living in Mexico, it was time to do it. So I let go of the lease on my office and my apartment, and I went for a 3-month trial in Puerto Vallarta. I was hooked, and I've lived here in PV ever since. Over the next 2 years, I planned and built a new website that would house all of my courses with a store to sell all of my products. I closed my private practice and officially became an online marketer and digital nomad. Since my move to Puerto Vallarta, I've continued to create new courses and new products. I've written and published 2 more books. When COVID hit in early 2020, like everyone else, I was frightened. Since I was already a digital nomad working from home, my life really didn't change all that much due to restrictions and social distancing. And just as in the recession from 2007 to 2009, I adapted. I continued to hustle. Since I couldn't lead in-person workshops, I decided to launch virtual workshops. This expanded my business to an even greater worldwide audience. During this time, people stayed home and bought and read and listened to books. Sales of my books continued to grow. While countless businesses closed and went under during the pandemic, my business grew and I thrived. I almost felt guilty for doing so well when so many other people were struggling. Now, I'm shooting this introduction video to Nice Guys Don't Finish Last in April of 2022, 20 years after writing the lessons for Barnes & Noble University. So much has happened in my life during this 20-year span. My business is thriving. I have the financial stability I always craved. I'm making a difference in the world. And in recent weeks, some timely advice from some very successful coaches and entrepreneurs has convinced me I'm not done yet. So as I shoot this series of lessons for Nice Guys Don't Finish Last, I'm in the process of planning a conversion of my entire business into a subscription membership community. I'm beginning to realize what a monumental undertaking this will be, but it seems right and I'm excited and energized. This membership community will be my legacy, my gift to the world, and my succession plan. But since I don't plan on retiring anytime soon, it may not be my last big hustle. My point in sharing this brief personal history with you is to show you that what I wrote in Nice Guys Don't Finish Last 20 years ago really does work. My life is proof of it. Everything I've ever written or taught has come from my own experience, often my own struggles. Nice Guys Don't Finish Last is no exception. I had none of the prerequisites one might consider necessary to succeed as an entrepreneur and business person, but here I am teaching people how to do it, and I've been doing it for 20 years. Much of my life has already exceeded my expectations, especially when it comes to work and career. I have advanced degrees. I've had multiple successful careers. I've written 3 books and more are on the way. All have changed the lives of countless men and women around the world and bring in 6-figure royalty checks annually. I've built an online business that allows me to work from anywhere in the world. I live a comfortable life. I can travel first class, and I have no debt, including my home here in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, which I bought and paid off in 3 years. As I shared at the beginning of this video, one of my personal mantras is what one man can do, another man can do. It applies here. If I can build a successful business and live the life of my dreams, so can you. And according to Rule 4 of my universal business laws, when it comes to building and marketing your business, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Steal from the best and make it your own, and give them credit where due. I'm inviting you to steal from me and go become a full achiever in whatever work and career you've chosen. It's easier today than it has ever been to achieve unbelievable business success. There's no one right way to get there, but there are some consistent principles that will help you get out of your own way and help you live up to your full potential. That is what Nice Guys Don't Finish Last, They Rot in Middle Management is all about. In this 8-lesson, on-demand video course, you will learn to identify the ways in which you prevent yourself from living up to your full potential. And you will begin applying new ways of thinking and acting that will start you on your way to becoming what I call a full achiever. Do you want to make more money? Do you want to find passion in work and career? Do you want to quit procrastinating? Do you want to learn to follow through on what you start? Do you want to let go of the familiar and pursue your dreams? Do you want the freedom to live anywhere in the world? Do you want to live an abundant life? Do you want to give your gift to the world? Do you want to put a dent in the fucking universe? If you're ready to get out of your own way and become a full achiever, Nice Guys Don't Finish Last, They Rot in Middle Management will show you how. And in case you were wondering, Nice Guys Don't Finish Last is open to nice girls too. Are you ready? Click the registration link below and I'll see you in class.